Yo, what is up guys, Ghost here, welcome back to Stormgate Central. So today in this video I wanted to go over some recent comments that have been left on the Stormgate subreddit by Ryan Shooter. He is the lead UX designer from Frost Giant Games who is working on Stormgate, and he recently chimed in to give us a little bit more feedback and insight, I guess, into why the game has the visibility problems that it does. A couple of days ago, I made a video called The Stormgate Devs Address Community Criticism and Feedback, and they of course released this before and after video just showing how far the game has come and, you know, how much can happen in the space of a year. Now, as I normally do when I create my videos, I posted a link to it over on the subreddit, and somebody left a comment there about the colours that they chose for the show match. Let's remember, the show match for Stormgate was for a lot of people the first time they ever saw the game, and the colours there were purple and teal, and I think this really exacerbated the readability and the visibility of the game in terms of which player has which units. And this guy here is saying, you know, the red and the blue colours for the mirror matchups was way better for readability when spectating. Purple and teal isn't it. The colours are too close to quickly notice who is who, especially if you were to sit in a crowd and be watching on a screen at LAN. And Ryan actually left a pretty lengthy reply here going over why that is the case, and I'm going to read it for you guys because, like I said, it's quite interesting. So he says here, just to put that in perspective, the reason the colours are purple and teal is because we don't have a colour system that operates more intelligently than player 1 is this colour, and player 2 is this colour, and player 3 is this colour. So what he means here is that, let's say you have 4 players in a game, the person at the top, if you can imagine it that way, is player 1, the person at the bottom is player 4, and each of those players, I believe, is just assigned a colour. It's, you know, it's very rudimentary. And with co-op coming in Devastator, which was the most recent beta test that is now concluded, we didn't really want the red and blue players to be on a team together, we wanted red for the enemies. A real colour system will be coming online eventually, but this is one of several places in the game right now where we are operating on a very bare-bones system to get the game stood up that need to have more robust systems built on top of them. One thing that is kind of interesting is just how complex each individual system in a game as polished as StarCraft 2 is, and if you try to build everything right away to the same quality bar, you'll be waiting ages to have a playable game, which gives the team less time to iterate on the actual gameplay. So we build a basic version of each system and then revisit it and build the desired system later when the schedule allows. So honestly, I think that makes a lot of sense, right? This is an early access game, so they're bringing out alpha tests, they're bringing out beta tests, they have to have rudimentary systems in place for all the different systems of the game so that we can actually play it. That's not to say that all of these systems are up to scratch or are going to be the final thing that we see in the game, although of course, people being people, they are going to judge it based on what they see. First impressions do go a long way, and, you know, most of the people watching perhaps aren't going to be watching a video like this. They're not going to be frequenting the subreddits and other sources and reading this information, right? They don't have any idea about game development, not to say that I do specifically, but they're just basically going to judge the game on whatever they see, and if they don't like what they see, well, that's going to be the end of it. So he continues here saying, of course it is impossible for the community to know which systems are in this state without us specifically saying so, and even if we did, you wouldn't necessarily know what about the system's current state is intended and not intended. So I would recommend continuing to give feedback about things like this, even if you suspect that they are in that kind of a state. I just felt like chiming in on this one to provide some context, and Ryan, your context is very much appreciated. I'm sure we can all see from the upvotes on that comment there that whenever players get some feedback straight from developers and we get a little bit of an explanation as to why something is that way in a game, I, for one, really appreciate that. It's just really nice to see that transparency, and that is definitely the way, in my opinion, to build Stormgate into a successful game. We really need that kind of communication. But just to add to what Ryan says here, like he says, sometimes it's kind of blatantly obvious when something isn't finished in the game, at least to those of us who kind of know anything or have any experience playing games. For example, the hedgehog model in Stormgate, if you've seen what that looks like, it's pretty apparent that that is not the final model. You can go ahead and look at the avatar for that unit and see that the artwork there is far superior to the in-game model. So whoever's doing the in-game models, they've probably got several more passes to do on all the models in the game, shader building and all that sort of stuff to actually get the game looking as they want it to be for release. And the same goes for many different systems in the game, but some of these systems aren't going to be as visible to us as others. So that goes for things like the pathing in the game, the size of the units and the differentiation between them, which parts of the units are colorized to allow you to identify whether they are a friendly or an enemy unit, or indeed which color, which team they are on. And there has to be an absolute myriad of other parts of the game that Stormgate still have to touch. So just wanted to put that out there. Whenever you are looking at the game, do bear in mind that everything you see, like, it is still a work in progress. You know, if you've just decided, you know, I just don't like the way the game looks overall in general, fair enough, but I just thought I'd put that out there. Also, guys, if you're not over on the subreddit and you're interested in more Stormgate information, I thoroughly recommend going and checking it out. I'll leave you guys a link down below because the devs do frequently reply there to people, so that's always a nice way that you can get in touch with them and also leave some feedback. Guys, if you haven't already, it would be massively appreciated if you would subscribe to the channel. If you're interested in Stormgate, I'm going to be covering all of the Stormgate news going forward, and then once the game finally releases, we're of course going to be going into different builds for the races, casts, tips and tricks, gameplay, all of that good stuff. So if you guys are interested in the game, feel free to drop a sub down below. That would be really, really appreciated. Have a good one, guys, and I'll see you all in the next video.